Step one to getting a service dog is to always evaluate yourself, your lifestyle, and your disability. It is very important to remember that diagnosis does not equal disability. A disability is something that affects your day-to-day life activities and your ability to carry out your life. And this is in between you and your care team. This is not between anybody else to say who is disabled or not. The next thing that you're going to want to consider is what have you tried before a service dog, because service dogs are one of the most involved, time-intensive, and expensive treatments out there, period. The next thing you need to consider is your lifestyle. Do you have enough time, enough energy to be taking care of a dog and fulfill its needs? There's definitely such thing as having a disability that will keep you from being able to care for your service dog. If that is your life, I am sorry that is your situation. The next thing you're going to want to consider is definitely if you have the time, the capability, and the funds to be caring for a dog long term and be able to fulfill its needs. The next thing that you're going to want to consider is the change in lifestyle, how much you will have to adjust your schedule, your routine to fulfill your dog's needs, how the public will perceive your dog, where do you want your dog to go with you. Those are all things that you are going to want to consider before getting a service dog. Now, when thinking about your disability, my favorite thing to ask people to do is make a list. Write down, if you had a magic wand and you say, abracadabra, you can do this, what would you teach your dog to do? What would you have your dog do for you? And how often will they use those tasks? I would write like my top 3 tasks, and then I would write down like, ooh, I could use this, it would be nice, but it's not like a deal breaker if my dog can learn this or not. The next thing I suggest you do after this is talk to your support team, not only your doctors, but your friends and your family, and throw out the idea that you are thinking about a service dog, because I promise you, because it's such a large change in lifestyle, you will struggle immensely more if you do not have people around you who A, support you, and B, believe you. Obviously, if there are other people in your household, you are going to want their consent to be bringing in a whole animal who needs to be trained into your home, and you're going to want them to be on board with your training, because everybody in the home has to be consistent with the training. Now, I'm making this video with the assumption that you are owner training your service dog. If you are not owner training your service dog and you want to go through a program, that is fabulous. I could probably make another video on that, even though that's never been the route I've gone. I do have friends who have program dogs. Now, the next thing is one of the most important things to consider is, what is this dog going to look like? Are you trying to start with a dog that you already have in your home? Are you going out and getting a prospect, and that's what it's going to be? It's going to be a dog that you would like to see if they will turn into a service dog in training. You don't get a dog and then call it a service dog in training. You have to figure it out first. There is a very specific kind of personality that a dog has to have to be a successful service dog. Now, when considering breed of dog, I want you to look at the tasks that you wrote down and think about the breed that you would like and its aptitude for carrying out those tasks. If you have a Chihuahua and you can't bend over and you need it to pick up dropped items for you, it would be very tricky, because you're going to have to bend over to get the item from the Chihuahua's mouth. Maybe not the best choice of service dog. If you have a psychiatric disability and you hate attention drawn to you, maybe not getting a huge, fluffy, cute Newfoundland, maybe that wouldn't be the best fit. Now, when deciding where to source your dog, if you are getting a new prospect, first thing you're going to want to consider is breed. The second thing is you're going to want to consider is age. You do not have to start out with a very young puppy for service work, but there's a certain age that, if it takes 2 years to train this dog, how long of a career are they going to be able to have before they need to retire? Keep in mind, service dogs, most of the time I have seen, retire around 7 or 8 years old. Physically, could they work longer? Yes, but keep in mind that service work is a very demanding job on a dog, mentally and physically, and a lot of great service dogs don't necessarily have lifetime careers. At some point, they may just be like, hey, I'm done. I have no more interest in doing this, and that's something that you're going to want to consider. Also, when choosing a breed, I want you to do a real deep dive on it. I want you to be using all of the resources that you have at your fingertips on your phone, but also going out and about, possibly going to dog shows or dog events, or even going to rescues and talking to people about their experiences with these breeds or with these dogs. Now, I'm always going to advocate for ethical breeding if you choose to go with a purebred puppy, and I have a bunch of videos on that. Or I think breed specific rescue is a really, really awesome way to get a purebred dog through a rescue source if you're not necessarily in the position to be raising a puppy or purchasing a puppy, because ethically bred dogs can cost quite a bit more money than a rescue dog. Getting a rescue dog for service work is always the riskier choice. However, if you go through a breeder or you go through a rescue, you need to keep in mind that there is a possibility that this dog will wash out of service work or not be right for the job, and that is nothing of fault on the dog. A lot of dogs, even when they are of a popular service dog breed, just don't have the personality or desire to want to do service work, and you've got to be okay with that. But it's definitely something that you're going to need to be transparent about, no matter where you're getting your dog from. If you are getting a mixed breed dog from a rescue or a purebred dog through a rescue, I highly, 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 highly suggest going with a dog who has been in a foster home and been around kids and children and different kinds of people already, so you have a snapshot of what that dog looks like before you place your bets on it, before you get it. I want to make you aware that the process of getting a service dog should be very, very thoughtful and done with your head, not your heart. That is one of the hardest things to do, is think about, I am getting this dog for a specific purpose. Let's be as smart about it as possible, because once you bring that dog home, it's going to be really hard not to think with your heart. So it's better to think about it with your head before you actually go out and start meeting dogs. Another thing that you are going to need to look at is who is helping you train this dog. Owner training does not mean training by yourself. It means that you are doing the majority of the legwork, but it almost never means doing it all by yourself. Although there are a lot of incredible online resources and you can read books and you can do podcasts, that is one of the hardest ways to do it. The more successful way that I have found is at least pairing with a trainer in the basics. Get your dog's basics underway. If you can take like puppy courses, if you can get your dog its canine good citizen, like you are on your way to mastering those foundational skills that your dog will need to have before you train it for tasking and public access.